Welcome to Action Reloaded. Um, Tuesday, I think it is, marks the release of Renegades. Um, but as we all know, this doesn't mark the first time you have teamed up with Jonathan Softcott. You've done the Old Way movies together. So, what attracted you back to the world of shooting in London and Jonathan Softcott?
Well, Jonathan always gives me roles that I've never really played in my life before. The first one, Richie Archer in "We Still Kill the Old Way," was a retired elderly gangster living in the south of Spain. I never really played gangsters. I used to play kind of smoothie villains, but I never played kind of retired Cockney gangsters, and it was a lot of fun. And I thought that would be a good thing to do. So then we did a second film along the Weasel lines, and that was good too. And then he suggested I come over and do this. By this time, of course, I'm a locked-in Jonathan Southcott repertory player. I mean, I'd be in all his films if he wanted me there. Probably because they're fun and they're quick, they're easy, they're fun. Also, I'll be honest. I live in California, and he brings me over to the UK where I have quite a lot of family still, and it's very nice for me to be able to come over and be looked after properly by him and all the rest of it, and do a job of work, and also see my family and spend time in the UK. So there's a lot of reasons for working for Jonathan, but mainly because he reminds me of when I was a very young actor, and we used to make films very quickly, very cheaply, very fast, and well done. And this is what he's doing now. Not very cheaply, but let me take out the very cheap. I don't mean very cheaply. They're not very cheap at
I
all.
know what you mean.
But
In
they're
comparison to
fast. They're fast and they're fairly low budget, and he would agree to that.
what is typically known as the action B movie, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And it's my favorite genre. So,
Oh, well,
uh,
that's good. That's helpful.
while we were talking about the old way, there was it the fact that Jonathan had passed you against, well, what you were usually playing that triggered the itch to reprise the role in a sequel?
Yes, and he always said, I'd like to do a series of these films. And I said, sure, I think that's a lovely idea. I mean, listen, the other thing about it is it's not often that old semi-retired actors are dragged out of their cozy little comfort zone and made or asked to do something energetic like that. It's not like I'm going from job to job anymore. It doesn't happen that way. So it's very flattering anyway to be asked to be in something anyway at my age. Yeah, I mean, it was just a natural thing. I like to work, and this was work, and the fact that Jonathan made it so enjoyable was a bonus.
Between you two, we still such and such the old way movies. What one was your favorite?
Or the first one, I think. I think everybody would agree the first one is the better one. And the storyline is better. The second one, I think, got a little bogged down in complications and things like that. But the first one is a nice, neat, tidy revenge story, and introduces the concept of a bunch of old geezers getting together and showing that they've still got it.
Um, and this character that I'm going to mention now is far out from Richie. You played Simon Templar and the Saint. If I'm right, you took over from Roger Moore.
Yeah.
What was it like playing Simon Templar?
Well, a lot of people ask me that question over the years, and when Roger Moore finished playing Simon Templar in the late 1960s, and I didn't play him until about 1978. So there was it wasn't a question of Roger Moore leaving and me stepping into his shoes immediately. It was quite a long time for the public to accept a new Saint, which I think on the whole they did. It was a lovely job. It made me quite well known for quite a while. Um, uh, it was great fun to do. It was hard work because unlike most long running or TV series like that, most leading characters have a sidekick or two or three sidekicks or a partner or something. But the same was one of those rare characters where he was all by himself, which meant that the load of the story was carried by the leading actor. And that made the workload double really than what it is usually. You think about things like, oh, I don't know, any other TV show, possibly with the exception of Murder, She Wrote, where Angela Lansbury did it pretty much on her own as well. In fact, when she and I worked together, I did several Murder, She Wrote, and she and I compared notes, and we both agreed that it was actually quite hard being on your own and not having a sidekick with you.
I can
It was a
imagine.
lot of fun. The Saint. It was great fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
The season, well, the one season you were on of the Saint seemed it catapulted you out there. You were heading for rumors of Bond stardom. So, what led to the series being like cancelled after one season?
Lou Grade, in a short answer. Lord Grade, who was the head of ATV, he was the he was the money man, the producer, and all the rest of it. He had produced the original Saint with Roger Moore. A couple of things happened. First of all, our show was very, very expensive compared with Roger's. Roger never left the studio. We went to France, we went to Italy, we went all over locations all over England. Our show was much, much more expensive. He didn't like that very much. But secondly, at that time, he wanted to be a film producer, and he cancelled a lot of his TV shows and used the money to make movies instead. My show was just one of the victims of that cancellation program. I mean, it was madness because we'd sold all over the world. It was in profit. It was very, very popular. We could have gone on for years doing that show, and he just stopped it, and for no really terribly good reason other than using the budgets to make movies, nearly all of which did not work, and he lost his company eventually because of this.
Fuck, with that decision, bit him in the ass, rightly, done it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The current trend, anyway, in this day and age seems to be like legacy sort of movies, legacy series, as in they would reboot it and bring back someone from the previous installment. Would you ever sort of return to the shoes of Simon? Maybe training like a protege or being the head of like the company now, or what would you think of a role like that?
Well, I did. They made a pilot episode with Adam Rayner playing Simon Templar, and which both I and Roger appeared as he was a good guy. I was actually the villain in it, uh, which was a hoot, frankly. Because I got to spend some time in Romania shooting in the dictator's offices. That was great. I mean, I thought Adam Rayner would have been a great Saint, but the pilot never really went anywhere, and it just kind of fizzled out, really. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for anything like that. I'm up for anything really, except pornography. I'm too old for pornography. I can't.
There's a market for everything.
Oh, yeah, right. Old porn. Yeah, right.
I'd mentioned as well that you were lined up for James Bond. That was around the time when would have been Lewis Collins going. Am I correct?
Yes, here's the story about that, is that when Roger was nearing the end of his time as Bond, it was quite obvious he was going to leave and be replaced by somebody. The tabloid newspapers, when they had a lazy day, they would run stories about who's going to be the new Bond. I was just one of many names. Lewis Collins was one, I was one, Mike Kitchen was one. There was a whole bunch of us, us likely chaps who could have been Bond. And we all of us sort of slightly shrugged our shoulders and thought, well, it's probably going to be one of us. In the end result, it wasn't any of us. It was Timothy Dalton, who was not on the list usually. But I remember being told by an executive of the Bond company in a social event. We were having lunch out in the country with some mutual friends, and he was there, and he said, I'd like to have a word with you. Come and have a chat. So we went out in the garden, and he said, look, it's probably not my place to tell you this. He said, but the fact is you're not going to be Bond. And the reason is this. He said, if we wanted another Roger Moore, you'd be it. It's been discussed. But we don't want another Roger Moore. We want another Sean Connery. So they went with Tim Dalton. So I was told in no uncertain terms I wasn't going to be Bond, which was sort of a relief, really. I was able then to say to British press who asked me questions like you've just asked me, no, I know for a fact I'm not going to be, and that's fine. It was rather a relief, really.
Kind of wondering why they dodged Lewis, because Lewis would have resembled that Connery era, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I would have thought so. Yes, yeah, yeah. I don't know. You don't know the thought processes that go through people's minds about these things. I don't know.
Before we talk about Renegades, I got one more off the question. Um, well, it's kind of two, but I'll wrap it into one, so it seems like one. Um, man, you've worked with two legendary stars and two of my favorite. You've worked with Burt Reynolds and Chuck Norris and BL Stryker and Walker Texas Ranger. What was it like working with these guys?
Well, it's it was fine, except for the fact that I didn't really. If you look at those episodes, I don't really meet them. I meet the Burt Reynolds character, I think, at the very end, very briefly. I didn't spend any time running around Florida with Burt. It was my storyline was there, and then he comes at the end, solves it all. Exactly the same with Chuck. Yeah, I met him at the very end briefly for one small scene. So working with these people was minimal, really. You didn't spend any time with them at all. The jobs were lovely. They came and went. I couldn't tell you the plot of the BL strike. I couldn't tell you the plot of Walker Texas Ranger anymore. It was years ago, and it was just another job. But it would have been nice to have spent more time with those guys because they're interesting fellas. Burt Reynolds was sweet. I mean, he was very nice. He chatted to me on the one day I really met him. He was lovely and sweet, and he said, "Oh, he was come to dinner." And well, that never happened. And Chuck Connor, I really hardly knew him at all. I didn't meet him. So I'm sorry to say that. It's rather like people ask me questions about Witchfinder General, the movie I made back in the 1960s with Vincent Price. What was he like working with Vincent Price? I said, look at the movie. Our storylines run parallel. We don't actually meet until very beginning briefly, and at the very, very end of the movie, we have a brief meeting. I hardly worked with the man at all. Yet we were in a movie together.
On to your main feature, Renegades. What drew you to the role of Peck?
Well, I thought I asked Jonathan. I said, "Is this? Am I another Cockney chap?" He went, "No, no, no, no." He said, "No, you're rather a smart retired British major, SAS major." I know. Okay. I use my ordinary voice for that. It was nice. It was a what's the word when you have a whole bunch of actors in a movie? It was like a
Ensemble?
ensemble. Thank you very much. An ensemble piece, really. More than anything else. There was no. Although Nick Moran really was the star of the movie, I think. It's his story, really.
What was it like reuniting though with Billy Murray and Jonathan? Because you've previously worked with Billy, previously worked with Jonathan. What was it like reuniting with these guys, or did you just keep in touch over the years? So it was just basically a catch up.
We're all Facebook friends, or TikTok friends, or Instagram friends. So we exchange the occasional funny line with each other. Jonathan's lovely. I mean, Jonathan is very, very supportive, and is always talking about future projects and all the rest of it. I said, "You'll have to hurry up because I'm not. I'm very old. I'm not getting any younger." um, yeah, it's like when actors work together. You're like ships passing in the night. Really, you work and then you don't necessarily form a close relationship with them, and then when you come back together again, it's like you never left. It's like, hi Billy, hi Jonathan. It's because of the nature of our job is that we come and go like ships in night. You don't form particularly close relationships with other actors. You do sometimes with the man or the woman who's employing you. With Jonathan, I feel I'm quite close to Jonathan. I feel I can email him or something, whatever, whenever I feel like it, and he's always ready to chat and talk with me.
The agent action hero genre seems to be a thing now. Like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Dolph Lundgren, all these boys are still kicking ass.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be a certified badass?
I never thought I was really. I mean, even when I was doing the Saint, I always thought this is such a con job. Really, this is really not true at all. I mean, I don't play that in my private life. I don't play, and even when I'm on the film set, I find it kind of slightly ridiculous. One of the reasons why I was not upset about not being Bond is I never felt I was right for it. I never felt I had the stature, the physical power for it. I was always kind of a slim guy, without a lot of muscles, without a lot of obvious fighting ability. I never looked dangerous. So now, in my old age, to be cast as somebody fairly dangerous is a hoot, frankly. It's kind of funny, really. And I think, am I really getting away with this? Is anybody buying this? That I might be a dangerous person to meet in the street? Very hard to convince me of this, I tell you.
Well, Soft Cotton's really sold it. I was like, shit, man, I don't want to meet Ian on a dark night.
Well, I wanted to be the light character, the character who who smiled a lot, and I wanted to be the one who, we have these meetings, of these post-traumatic stress meetings in the back of my pub in the film, with us old soldiers talking about our wartime experiences. And I said to the director, I said, one of us, and it's got to be me, this is my meeting, I'm the one who organized all this, one of us must be light and mustn't be heavy. We mustn't go all dark. Oh, it was terrible. I was killing people in Afghanistan. One of us has got to lighten it up. So he said, you do that. I said, thank you. That's what I was intended to do that. So in that sense, I was the sort of, not a comedy relief at all, but I was the person who sped the scenes up a little bit, got them out of the doldrums. That's what my job in that film was, more than anything else. I think was to lighten it a little bit. That makes me less of a badass in a sense.
Not at all. A badass who likes to have a little giggle.
Yeah.
Are you excited to follow up with the character of Peck and maybe like a sequel or maybe a couple more sequels?
Sure. I'm game for it. I'm game. As I said, I mean, I enjoy working for Jonathan. It's very nice. It's very pleasant. I get to come over to the UK. Um, and they don't take forever to do, and they're very pleasant. And there's no particular reason. And as I say, it's not like people are lining up these days. Jobs are rare, and to have one as nice as this, where I'm playing quite major leading roles, is wonderful, really. Um, the older you get, yes, there is employment for old actors, but there's not very much. So you're inclined to see the same old actors, and they're all wonderful. The old actors who've survived and go on working forever and ever, people like Ian McKellen, and Tony Hopkins, and people like that, have always been superbly wonderful actors, and have always been great stars. But if you look at how many roles they take all of them, which is understandable. Why not? If I was a film producer and I had a choice between Ian Ogilvy and Tony Hopkins, guess who I'd pick? Of course, I'd pick Tony Hopkins. So, it's not like we're inundated with jobs. So when somebody lovely like Jonathan Softcott comes along and says, "Come on, get off your fat ass and come and do a movie," you say yes.
Something else as well that people may not know would be that you're also a successful author. Would you maybe do like a novelization or some prequels of Renegades? Beef up the characters a bit.
No, I'm not that kind of novelist. I can't write other people's stories. I wouldn't be interested in doing that at all. It takes me forever to think of a plot, and when I do, I sit down and struggle with it for maybe 2 or 3 years. I could never knock off I know wonderful writers who, given a job like that, they could do a full Renegades novel in 3 weeks, and they would work night and day. They'd sit there, bang, bang, bang. I can't do it like that. So first of all, I wouldn't be interested. Secondly, I wouldn't be able to. It was not my kind of book.
So Renegades will have viewers. They'll have them pumped. Adrenaline will go in. They'll be just pumped in. They'll want to go out. Even if they're old, even if it's like someone's granddad, they'll want to pick up their shotgun and go take out the local thugs. If you had to sell the movie to the general audience, how would you do it?
Oh my God. It's funny. I come from an advertising family, and I ought to be able to answer that question very easily. How would I sell the Renegades movie? I think I'd sell it, to be honest with you, the way Jonathan and his team are selling it right now. I think the posters they come up with are excellent. They've always been good, the posters. Very strong, whoever does them. And I don't know, I think, how would I sell it? Go and see this terrific film with some lovely old actors in it. That's what I'd say.
And you're not far from the truth. One of the main actors in it that is headlining is Lee Majors. What was it like, sort of working with Lee?
Oh, that was lovely. He was such a gentleman, you know. He was quiet and self-effacing, and you know, we rode together in cars going to the location and things. And he was just utterly and completely professional. He knew his lines. He'd done his homework. You know, when you do a show like $6 Million Man and all the other things he's done, one of the things you learn is professionalism, and it's lovely to work with somebody who is absolutely professional to his core. And here he was thrown. You know, he was out of his comfort zone, really. I mean, I don't suppose he was used to working the way these films are made. Um, but he took it in his stride, and he was charming and lovely. Everybody loved him, and yeah, he was very good. I thought, you know, yeah.
So before we wrap, my last question to you is: can we expect your next movie to be an adrenaline pumping action movie?
They're all Jonathan movies are all action movies. Yeah, I don't think Jonathan could make a psychological, sit down psychological thriller to save his life. They're action movies, his movies, and that's what he likes, and that's what he wants to do. You know, yeah. I can't imagine him doing anything cerebral, really. You know.
So will the next time we see you be in Renegades 2, or do you have anything coming before that?
No, he's been talking about, oddly enough and interestingly enough, he was talking about a Western, would you believe? Yes, yes. So that might happen. You never know. Jonathan, here's the thing: he has all these projects, a number of them, and he's got them in both his hands. He kind of juggles them, and whatever comes up that is convenient and quick and easy and can be done right away, that's the one he'll do. I think that's the way he works, really. And he was muttering about this one, maybe sometime this summer or something like that. But I don't think that's going to happen now. You know, I think other things come in between. Another film will come in, and he'll go, "Oh yeah, that looks good. Oh, okay, let's do that. We got the facilities right now. Let's do that now." I don't know. That may not be how he works at all. Maybe he plans for years and years and years. But it strikes me that it's quite on spur of the moment decisions. You know, which on yeah, what he's going to make. Hmm.
Well, Ian, thank you so much for your time. It has been amazing having you, and congratulations on the release of Renegades. I found it amazing, and it was fun to watch you kick ass. And the finale, your bar, it's unreal. And as you said before, Nick does steal the show in his hand-to-hand fight scene at the end, which even you would agree is worth checking out for.
Oh, fabulous! I mean, you know, he knows what he's doing. Nick is a martial arts expert, and you know, he actually knows what he's doing. You know, when I have to be choreographed because I don't know what I'm doing, so I need to be shown what to do by a stunt expert. Nick actually knows what he's doing. Yeah, so he really is the real thing, Nick. Yeah.
Okay, and it's been amazing. Thank you so much for your time,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I look
See ya.
forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much.